Hey, you too. Your dreams are just one phone call away if you talk to our next guest, Charles D'Angelo from Charles D'Angelo. Good morning, Charles D'Angelo.
Hey, what's up, Kelly McGraw? How are you guys doing?
Hey there.
Good. How are you doing? What are you do not like us anymore? You're not coming in the studio, or are you
Short timing us.
hanging out with the highfalutins and you don't have time for us?
You know, I ask myself that very question every time you tell me you're going to come to the office. And I thought I'm going to go Richard Simmons on you for a while until
That is good.
until you decide
That's
you're going
good,
to come
Charles.
in. So, if you know my friend Richard, I'm not taking it to that extreme, but no, it's a busy time of the year. So I'm
All
glad
right,
to
fair
be
enough.
here and talk about how people can start to take charge of their life the way you have several times over, and get back on track when they fall off.
All right, I see how we're Charles, you've been on the show for a long time. You're a good friend of the show, and what I like about you and what people like is you don't judge, right? People fall down.
Very, very non-judgmental.
Yeah.
And I know I say it in jest, but in seriousness, anyone who goes through the type of transformation that you've been through working with them, I mean, in seriousness, I think when you first came to see me back in 2010 or 2011, you lost something of like, what, 80, 90, 100 pounds, something like that?
I wasn't that fat, but yeah, I was in the I got skinny. I got too skinny.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember you lost something between 50 and 100
Yeah,
pounds. But
yeah.
nonetheless, over time, you're a good example of how little disciplines, if they go neglected, catch up. And many people have that happen. And all too often, people then have a lot of guilt, a lot of shame about those things. Rather than catching it while it's a small problem, they kind of go unconscious about it, and they wake up one day, and they're either where they started or even sometimes heavier.
Right.
And so it's not a matter really of a diet or an exercise plan. It's really just making these small disciplines, these small habits, things you become very consistent with. So anytime I work with someone, I tell them, first off, it's not a diet-based approach that we're going to take. And if you're listening to this and you're having this issue, how many diet books are there out there? How many DVDs? How many exercise programs, trainers, nutritionists, all those different things? I think if those were the answer, we wouldn't see the type of problems that people have. So what the real work with me is getting to a point where you're much more accepting, much more approving, much more appreciative, much more loving in general of yourself, so that you start to make these daily investments in yourself by making yourself a priority. So many people, especially the moms that come to see me, tell me that often they feel that their circumstance is a result of having put themselves last on the list of priorities. And I always tell people it's kind of a misconception or a delusion to live that way, because if you don't feel your best, if you don't have energy, if you really aren't comfortable in your own skin, how well do you think you're doing serving the people that matter most to you? If you're in a relationship and you feel terrible from the moment you get out of bed, you don't have energy, you don't feel confident, you look in the mirror and you feel like you're moving the wrong direction, how much of your true presence, how much of your true attention do you think you're able to give to your partner, for example? So when you get that dynamic back into order, which is taking care of yourself better so you can better take care of other people, everything tends to move in the right direction.
It's a great philosophy. You've been a great friend over the years. How many people you've helped? I want you to add up all the weight you've helped people lose. It's got to be in the tons, right? The tons and tons of weight.
It's kind of gotten interesting because, you know, when I first started, I was only 18, 19 years old, and now that I'm much older and I've had a lot more life experience, I've come to realize that when I help people lose weight, it's weight not only in the physical sense, but it's kind of weight in a more general sense. You know, the regrets that people have,
Right.
the change of their history, so much of that plays into the decisions and the choices we make. Often, we use food like any other drug. We distract ourselves from things. Perhaps we're worried about a transition in our life, whether it be a job transition or a relationship change. And so we tend to reach out of ourselves when we don't really trust ourselves, to distract ourselves, to console ourselves. And so part of the work is clearing that out, clearing those bad habits up, so that you have the space in yourself to really grow into who you were born to be in the first place.
It's so true. It is physical, but there's a very much a mental part to it all as well. It's really interesting. Charles, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you?
Go to my website, charlesdangelo.com, or you can call the office at 314-495-3228. And my book is called, Think and Grow Thin is the first one, and the latest one is called Inner Guru. And I just want people to know that, of course, no matter how far off the mark you are, you can always course correct and get back to center and really start to live the life you deserve to.
Charles, have a good day. Thanks for checking in. Good stuff.
You too, guys, and I'll try to come and see you guys soon.
You're always
Very
welcome.
busy,
You're
very
always
busy.
welcome. No, we
Right?
hear you. Thanks,
and
buddy.
you're always welcome too.
I know. Thank you,
And
sir.
that goes for you too, Kelly.
That goes for everybody.
Okay.